afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This disclaimer is for YouTube. I am doing a speech for my communications class with Abraham Lincoln University. All the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Today's topic is about the Boeing 737 MAX airline crisis. Today I'm going to talk about what happened in Indonesia and Ethiopia, where 346 people died due to a plane crash. There was two Boeing 737 MAX that crashed in October of 2018, and the other one crashed on March 20th, 2019 in Indonesia. The first Boeing crashed in Indonesia and the second Boeing crashed in Ethiopia. And total people died were 346 that were on board. The accident stemmed from flaws in the maneuvering characteristics augmentation system, the MCAS, and sensors that failed. The MCAS is a flight stabilizing autopilot assist program developed by Boeing, which became notorious for its malfunctions in these two fatal accidents of the 737 MAX airplane. My name is Rafael Molina, and I am currently enrolled in a criminal justice major that covers criminal and forensic investigations. I am participating in this speech for my COM202 Effective Proof Communications class. I am a physical security engineer and an investigator with over 20 years of experience. I have visited the Boeing company in Seattle, Washington. To prepare for this speech, I have conducted extensive research online. My first illustration here is the Boeing 737 MAX airplane. This is a new aircraft that was produced. It's an Airbus an airplane that was produced for passenger travel. On October 29, 2018, at approximately 6:20 a.m. local time, a Boeing 737 MAX airplane Lion Air flight JT610 took off from Jakarta Soekarno-Hatta International Airport in Indonesia. It was less than 13 minutes in flight when it plunged into the Java Sea, killing 189 people on board. According to investigators, the pilots tried more than 20 times to stop the plane's autopilot's maneuvering characteristics augmentation system, the MCAS, that controls the horizontal tailwing stabilizer trim motors, with negative results. They were not able to overcome the MCAS system in order to fly the plane. The MCAS automatic pilot system program forced the plane's nose down. Furthermore, they could not bring it under control, and the plane crashed into the Java Sea at approximately 450 miles per hour. On March 10, 2019, at approximately 8:30 a.m. local time, a new Ethiopian airline, Boeing 737 Flight 302, left the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa. Shortly after takeoff, 6 minutes after the flight on Sunday morning, the plane crashed into a rural area of the capital of Ethiopia, killing 149 people and 8 crew members on board. It was the second fatal crash of the new Boeing 737 MAX jet in less than 5 months apart. The Ethiopian flight black box data shows that the pilot's struggle was pretty intense after takeoff. A left angle of attack sensor malfunctions, triggering a cockpit alert about unreliable airspeed and altitude readings, making the control column tremble in a false stall warning. The plane thinks that the plane is going up, that it's going up into space, in the direction of space. let's look at the illustration two, which shows us the angle of attack sensors. There are two angle of attack sensors in the front of the plane. As you can see on the screen, the left one is the one that triggered the MAXA to malfunction. It was a faulty sensor. Short after the 2nd minute mark, when the pilot retracts the flaps and turns off the autopilot, the faulty sensor activates the MCAS. The MCAS pushes the nose sharply down 3 times. The pilot activates the cutoff switches, turning off the MCAS. Nevertheless, the aerodynamic forces on the tail wing made it impossible for the pilot to manually move the nose up. The manual control is underneath the pilot's knee, and it is difficult to move the wings manually with the aerodynamic forces. Without any options left other than flying upside down, at about 5 minutes and 43 seconds into the flight, the pilot turns the MCAS back on to provide them with the electrical power to move the horizontal wing to make the nose go up and get back in the air. He couldn't compensate with the airspeed to move the nose quickly. The MCAS put the jet in a dive. By a sharper nose-down movement, the plane crashes to the earth 6 minutes after takeoff. On October 14, 2021, a former Boeing 737 MAX chief technical pilot, Mr. Mark Faulkner, was indicted by a federal grand jury for deceiving the Federal Aviation Administration and scheming to defraud airlines during the manufacturing of the Boeing 737 MAX. One technical manufacturing flaw was the root cause of the 737 Boeing MAX airplane disaster and crisis. Now, only one person is being held responsible. Mark Faulkner is being accused of a crime and held responsible for both disasters. Well, you may think that the indictment was a resolution to the whole ordeal. However, Mark Faulkner was hardly the one to blame for the crashes. This type of negligence or oversight is usually caused by an orchestra, more complex with extensive details and vicarious liability. It's not a single player action. The tragedy and fall of Boeing are blamed on the highly paid executives of Boeing for cutting manufacturing costs to become the most shareholder-friendly players on Wall Street. What made Boeing such a success was their ability to produce reliable airplanes in the 20th century. The authority and unique corporate culture rested with aeronautical engineers, not the finance executives. Boeing accepted the responsibilities of one of the crashes. One. However, Boeing paid, as part of settlement for the two crashes, $237.5 million in a lawsuit for failing to oversee the safety issues of the 737 MAX jet. Since then, Boeing changed its focus from being a company of business executives back to safe aeronautical engineering. We're going to go to illustration number 3, which shows us the tail wing of the plane. This new design is because the motors were beefed up, they were increased in power. It was necessary to create a system that would help the plane lift and descend a lot quicker and smoother. So they designed a tail wing that moves with a system called an MCAS. It is an assist pilot program that was designed in order to control that tail wing. Unfortunately, as we read on, we're going to see what happened with that. At the beginning of plane manufacturing, there was no such thing as a computer controlled or autopilot to fly the aircraft in early aircraft manufacturing. Manually operated flight mechanics were the methods of controlling an aircraft. When the aerodynamic forces were too excessive for manual control, then the option of analog electrical controls uh, should be present when the computerized pilot system or pilot assist system fails. It is okay to fly the plane manually with hydraulics and electrical systems, not brute force per se. So this option was obsolete in the Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. The MCAS did not relinquish an analog electrical hydraulic control system to the pilots to operate independently. Now it has a system in there, but it wasn't designed to allow the pilot to control it independently. The aerodynamic forces were too powerful to operate the horizontal tail wing independently manually to stabilize the aircraft. This is proof that there was a missing integrated analog digital circuit module that it was supposed to be designed in order to allow that feature, and it wasn't designed in this particular plane. The pilots were pinned down in an emergency. The angle of attack sensors at the front of the plane was faulty and triggered the MCAS with false information. The MCAS activated prematurely and downed both planes. The manual, mechanical, analog, electrical, hydraulic pilot controls were not a feature included in the original equipment manufacturing specification of the Boeing 737 MAX jets. This feature was the electrical system missing on the plane to prevent these two disasters. Now let's look at illustration number 4. In illustration number 4, we see the black box information of flight 302. I think if we review and analyze this situation carefully, we will agree that Boeing was not lying to the Federal Administration, Federal Aviation Administration. Furthermore, they were not defrauding their customers. Mark Faulkner was found not guilty of fraud in the 737 MAX Boeing case. Faulkner was the only person facing criminal charges for the flaws that resulted in the disasters. Boeing ousted Chief Executive Officer Dennis Muhlenberg with a golden parachute of $60 million. They had to pay $60 million to fire Mr. Muhlenberg to relieve a lousy reputation and restore the company's image. See, everyone, like I said earlier, everyone makes mistakes, including all manufacturers. The difference between Boeing and any other manufacturer is that Boeing cannot afford mistakes. They make airplanes. Boeing is famous for manufacturing reliable American airplanes. The president's airplane, Air Force One, is a Boeing 747 jet. What made Boeing such a success was their ability to produce reliable airplanes, regardless of what the media says. Boeing is an upstanding organization, and they did and have done everything possible to contain this disaster, including grounding all Boeing 737 worldwide. The image of Boeing in the hearts of Americans and people around the world will be of safe aeronautical engineering and manufacturing. Because there's no existing safe, responsible aeronautical manufacturer that can afford to have flaws in manufacturing and stay in business. Obviously, we know that Boeing is still in business. Boeing is a safe, responsible aeronautical manufacturer. Thank you for your time.